Let's talk about something that confuses people about Mediterranean and DASH diets. Neither typically requires calorie counting, yet both support healthy weight maintenance or loss. This seems counterintuitive in a culture obsessed with calorie tracking, but it reveals important principles about how food quality, composition, and eating patterns affect natural calorie regulation through satiety mechanisms. The fundamental concept is energy density, calories per gram of food. Water and fiber add volume and weight without calories. Foods high in water and fiber have low energy density, meaning you can eat larger volumes for fewer calories. Vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains have low energy density. You feel full from stomach distension and nutrient sensing before consuming excessive calories. Conversely, oils, nuts, and processed foods have high energy density. Small volumes pack many calories, allowing overconsumption before fullness signals register. Mediterranean and DASH patterns naturally emphasize low energy density foods. 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables provide enormous volume for relatively few calories. A giant salad might contain only 150 calories. Legumes are moderate energy density, filling due to fiber and protein without being excessively caloric. Whole grains provide more satiety per calorie than refined grains due to fiber content and slower digestion. Protein distribution affects satiety powerfully. Protein triggers satiety hormones more effectively than carbohydrates or fats. Both patterns provide adequate protein spread across meals, preventing the hunger crashes that occur with low-protein meals. You don't need excessive protein, 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram body weight, but distributing it throughout the day stabilizes appetite better than concentrating it at one meal. Fiber deserves its own discussion. Both soluble and insoluble fiber increase satiety through multiple mechanisms: gastric distension, delayed gastric emptying, modulation of satiety hormones including GLP-1 and PYY, and effects on blood sugar stability. The 35 to 40 grams of fiber typical in these patterns substantially exceeds the American average of 15 grams. This difference alone explains much of the satiety advantage. Fat's role is complex. While high energy density, fat slows gastric emptying and provides satiety. The key is fat type and food matrix. Whole food fats from nuts, avocados, olives, and fish provide satiety within a nutrient-dense package. Isolated oils are calorically dense but less satiating per calorie. Using olive oil moderately in cooking and dressings provides flavor and satiety without excessive calories. Eating pace influences calorie intake independent of food composition. Eating quickly allows consuming large quantities before satiety signals from your gut reach your brain. This hormonal signaling takes 15 to 20 minutes. Slow eating gives satiety mechanisms time to function. Mediterranean meal culture emphasizing leisurely, social dining naturally paces eating, preventing overconsumption. The research comparing Mediterranean and DASH patterns to calorie-restricted diets shows comparable or better weight loss despite not explicitly limiting calories. A meta-analysis found Mediterranean diet produced similar weight loss to low-fat calorie-restricted diets, but with better long-term adherence. The mechanism is improved satiety and satisfaction, preventing the hunger and deprivation that undermines restrictive diets. Hunger versus cravings requires distinction. Hunger is physiological need for energy and nutrients. Cravings are psychological desires for specific foods, often highly palatable processed foods. These patterns reduce cravings by stabilizing blood sugar, providing adequate nutrients, and avoiding the hyperpalatable food combinations, sugar plus fat, salt plus fat, engineered to override satiety signals. For people who've lost touch with natural hunger cues through years of dieting or disordered eating, relearning requires attention. The hunger-fullness scale helps, rating hunger from 1 to 10, aiming to eat at 3 or 4 and stop at 6 or 7. This prevents both excessive hunger that drives overeating and eating past comfortable fullness. Emotional eating represents a separate issue. Using food for comfort, stress relief, boredom, or emotional regulation rather than physical hunger leads to excess consumption regardless of food quality. These patterns don't directly address emotional eating, which may require separate psychological work, but the satisfying nature of the foods and emphasis on mindful, social eating may help some individuals. The practical reality is that for most people, eating whole food-based Mediterranean or DASH patterns with attention to hunger-fullness cues, explicit calorie counting becomes unnecessary. The food quality, satiety, and eating patterns naturally regulate intake to appropriate levels. For a subset of people with damaged satiety signals or very low energy expenditure, some portion awareness might still be helpful, but rigid calorie counting usually isn't necessary. The honest comparison to restrictive diets: while calorie restriction works for weight loss when maintained, adherence fails long-term for most people because hunger and deprivation are unsustainable. Patterns that provide satiety, enjoyment, and nutritional adequacy allow sustainable weight management without requiring the psychological burden of constant calorie surveillance.